For all intents and purposes, I can't find a better word to describe this movie other than intense. And when I say intense, you're gonna be surprised to find out that I mean emotionally. Like, this movie has some really heartbreaking stuff going on. And we're about to talk about that a little bit once we get into the plot right about now. The wait was worth it. So the plot basically is that the main character loses somebody that means a lot to her, means the absolute world. So after that person dies, she becomes isolated, she becomes depressed, she becomes suicidal even. So in order to get her back out there and try to get her to overcome that fear, her best friend takes her on a huge quest to overcome an even bigger tower. And since that's not me being figurative, instead that's me being literal, you can see where some more of that intensity comes in at. Although this is technically a spoiler, given how late into the movie it actually happens, which we'll get into later, you're probably going to be able to figure out what's gonna happen by, I don't know, the trailer, the poster, context clues, prior knowledge of any other film ever. Because obviously, something goes wrong, and those two girls can't get back down the same way they went up. I do have to warn you that the pacing to get to this point, and the pacing after, could be considered slow to a lot of people. There wasn't a single moment where I was bored, but they do spend the first half of the film building up the characters, and if that's not something that you care about, you're probably going to think, oh wow, there's nothing going on here.
How I wish something would liven up this already tedious day.
And that's going to bore some people. They're going to find that very slow. The first scene is extremely thrilling. It's extremely intense. But after that, it becomes more of a character-driven drama until we get to the part where we're climbing the tower. Even after those more physically intense elements get brought in, the intensity of the emotions themselves still stick there.
Stick around.
It is still rooted in the development of the characters, literally building them up to bring them back down permanently. Although I did grow to care about the characters despite their many faults, it's mostly due to the stellar performances behind them. Actually, let's go ahead and talk about them, shall we? First up, we got our MC, Becky, played by Grace Caroline Curry. This was expert casting for a well-written character. Although it never directly states any kind of diagnosis that she ever possibly could have been diagnosed with, you would be forgiven if you saw signs of things here and there. Some are made obvious when it comes to a point that she may be suicidal, while others are a bit more subtle, like the fact that she may be suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Regardless of whether or not that's the case, it doesn't change how impactful this performance is from this actress. She does very well in the scenes where she's supposed to be overwhelmed, afraid, hopeless, broken, excited, having fun, brave, you name it. Each emotion is presented to be equally distinguishable between one another. And due to that, I felt when she felt. When she was in pain, I was in pain. When she was excited, I was excited. When she was fearful, oh buddy was I afraid. Which is a sentiment that also bleeds into the next character, Hunter, played by Virginia Gardner. Now, although Hunter isn't as likable as Becky, it's not because she is a bad character nor a bad person. She never intentionally tries to cause someone else pain. Regardless of her mistakes, she's still a supportive friend and she's still there when it counts. I've seen so much hate for a character that is undoubtedly human. For part of the movie, she acts confident, almost overconfident to a narcissistic degree, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she is a narcissist. Being confident in your abilities to do something doesn't mean that you're being an egotistical piece of trash. You're allowed to be proud of yourself. And for the people that says that she spends the whole movie that way, you're incorrect, and I have no idea what movie you watched because there are countless scenes where she's actually opening up, where she's being honest, where she's showing vulnerability that she was masking before. Just as I said with Grace, Virginia also did an amazing job. I got a couple honorable mentions that I want to touch on very briefly. Dan Connor, played by Mason Gooding, he may not have necessarily had a lot of screen time or anything, but he made me care about him in one of the most intense beginnings of a movie that I've seen all year. I gotta give him credit for that. And of course, he's too big of a name not to mention him. Becky's dad, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. His character still retains more of that rough and tough demeanor, but it succeeds at coming off as a worried dad, trying not to show vulnerability but being vulnerable while trying to still be an authority figure. And in typical fashion for a father like that, he hears, but he doesn't listen. I just wish they kinda went somewhere with that. So much for that last one being brief. Let's go ahead and get right into the age-old question. Does it suck, or are you in luck? I mean, come on guys, I've done nothing but praise this movie. I think you're in luck here. But for the sake of all fairness, I do need to point out a couple flaws. This movie puts a lot of work in plot twists.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
There's two twists in here. One that's more substantial than the other, but there's two nonetheless. Anybody that's watched any Lifetime movie, or Hallmark movie even, could probably see the signs for the first one, but they still put in the work to spread some clues around, just in case. The second one is completely fantastic. Like, I have no qualms with it whatsoever. The build-up was amazing. The clues and hints that you see, especially on a second viewing, are phenomenal. It's really good. The reason I'm telling you that is because although that makes sense, there's other things, some very important things, that don't. Now I could complain about the couple stupid things that characters do, like not tying something shut before they do something with it, trying to avoid spoilers here. But instead, I want to talk about logical inconsistencies within the world itself, things that don't quite work the way that they're presented. One has to do with a drone that is able to be operated by a controller. Makes sense, makes sense. Now, the camera being usable by any cell phone that connects to that controller, I'm not quite sure it does. I think that the remote control literally just holds the phone. You would need an app or something, wouldn't you, to be able to see what the drone sees? Something just didn't really feel like it made sense there. I could be wrong though. This one, I could be wrong. But the other is pretty important. It's a really big plot hole. It's kinda how the entire movie gets resolved, and it doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna spoil it, but what the heck? What? You got this really well put together movie with a few continuity errors here and there, but nothing egregious, and then you just... why? Oh well. If you watched 47 Meters Down, which is another project by the same people, you're going to like this one. But you're probably going to like this one more, unless the only reason you like 47 is because of the sharks. This one is a bit more unique. It feels more fresh, and because of that, I think I had a lot more fun with it. The way that the fear is intensified due to height instead of depth. Gosh, I can't say that word without it sounding like I'm spitting in your ear. You have my apologies for that. Anyway, but was still able to retain the claustrophobia of it all was not only masterful, but very commendable. But that's just my opinion, and I know a lot of people probably won't agree. But if you made it this far and listened this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Comment, I'm falling for you, to confuse the ones that didn't. And like always, have a great day. Thank you.